You're listening to the Recovered Life Show.
Great episode so far. We talked about gray area drinking.
Truly.
We talked about, now we're going to TGIF Sober, which we do every Friday, which is actually my favorite segment of the show.
It is.
Like
and
yeah.
Even though I work on the weekends, there's something about Friday. I'm an empathetic person and I'm sensitive, and in the, the universe, almost everybody, we know the kids don't go to school, and most people do get the weekends off. Some do, I guess I should say. I'm not sure exactly, but it feels better and lighter. So I love Fridays too.
Well, you know what? It's interesting is Fridays give me, I'm a weekend worker too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm what do they call a binge? I'm a binge worker.
You are.
Term. I am.
You are.
Like, I've realized that I'm somebody who likes to work in these like spurts where it's like, 5 days, 6 days, 14 days straight. Right. I work alcoholically, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a little bit. I would say as the person who receives the texts.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for taking those texts, by the way. But one of the things I'm going to tell you is like, coming back from this is that, when I look at Fridays now, I'm looking at Recovered Life and saying, as far as we've gotten, we started a couple weeks ago saying we're going to do several shows a week.
Yes.
And I think we got 2 or 3 out that first week. And then we had a holiday this week, which we, thank God, took off. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. And we love doing the show, but it's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work.
It is.
So plus the Recovered Life community. And we've got all these clubhouse rooms that we do.
They're so good
on recovery and all the contributors that help us, and amazing.
I love it.
But I look back and I look at Kristina, I'm like going, wow, 2 weeks. We've gone from doing an episode, a pre-recorded episode, to now going live.
I know.
And having all of these guys, we got a lot of stuff, so if you're not liking, following, and share us, do that, because we got a lot of contributors coming up. A lot of great interviews in the next 30 days. It's going to be amazing. But I look back and I say, wow, you know what? Sometimes you have to just appreciate the fact that, one, you were able to make it through, and 2, look at everything that we've accomplished.
It's amazing. And it is a heart project for me. I know it's a heart project for you too. And being able to kind of visit that on Friday. One of the things that's super important is that, we look at the progress. And this goes to everyone who's watching, everybody. So often the goal, which is a dopamine, based kind of work, once we hit the goal, we can kind of like, oh, okay, what do I do next? Because that dopamine is gone. But when you track your progress, it's called the progress principle. You can get it on a TED Talk if you want to look at it. When you track your progress, that's actually what promotes happiness, is looking at how far you've come. So I'm glad that we're doing it live on the show, because we're showing people this is what you do. And we want people to grow with us and see the transition and the transformation.
Well, this week we had a lot of transformation. I have to tell you, Monday, I was out Monday. You did the Monday show.
I did.
On Clubhouse. And, let me mention this real quick before you go into what we talked about Monday.
Okay.
But anybody who does not know, Clubhouse, the social audio app, we're very big there, Recovered Life.
So cool.
We've got 4 shows a week at 9 a.m. That Kristina and I split off. And
9 a.m. Pacific. Make sure you tell them.
Right. 9 a.m. Pacific. And I'm going to get a graphic for that next week so we can have that. So people can show up. But all you have to do is actually go into Clubhouse and hit the Recovered Life, and it will come up.
You can
join and get notified when we do these. But every week, every day, pretty much, we have these. And Monday, we do something called This Week in Recovered Life, which is the opposite of TGIF Sober.
It is. We started up.
Yeah.
We do. And this Monday we did our intentions, and it was so amazing to listen to other people share their intentions, because I was like, oh yeah, I want to add that too. Oh yeah, I want to do that as well. And being able to sit down in that Monday room, and you usually bring some good topics. I wasn't as great a host as you usually are, but Monday.
Oh, come on. You were awesome. Monday, thank God Kristina's here.
So we did sit down and think about our intentions. And so often this is not a practice that we take. We don't think about it. I mean, at least I should say I didn't think about it. Whenever I was in crisis or busy, I never sat down and said, okay, what do I want to do this week that has something to do with me? I think that I asked people to share something that they're going to do for themselves this week that's for fun and for free. I borrowed that from my, Al-Anon group. And very difficult to think about that. If you have been going like me, how do you think about something to do that doesn't and isn't attached to productivity? But
I like that.
That's where our lives are. That's what
I
we
like
really
that
enjoy.
and the transactional thing. We're going to do a show about that. Transactional relationships, right?
So true. So
like
true.
everything, like I don't have a relationship unless it's transactional,
Right.
and the doing. I love that. So what were some of the intentions that people had?
To sit and meditate on certain days. One person said, I'm going to work on my art this week. One person said, I'm going to have that conversation with that loved one that I'm not, that I've been putting off. Another person said, I'm going to sit outside in the sun in between my breaks. We talked a lot about boundaries too, which I know is our Wednesday room, but we talked about how now that many people are online, they don't have as good of boundaries because it's so easy. And I find myself doing that too, where I have a break between a session, I have 30 minutes, I'll schedule a new call because I don't have that physical boundary any longer. And, I can fit this in. But we're depleting ourselves without them. And so a lot of conversations about that.
Well, after the pandemic, finally, Kristina, I could say that, 3 weeks ago, I finally made my dedicated space.
Yes.
Right. That I could walk in and out of.
Yes.
And I've been taking my iPad and doing it. So I've been applying some of that stuff that you talked about in that room.
Good.
And I will tell you, it helps quite a bit.
It helps so much. And and there were some people sharing some really big stuff, and we celebrated everybody's intentions, little, big, it didn't matter, because starting off your Monday, your work week, let's say if you are somebody coming back to work with yourself first is not the normal way. We usually start off with, what are my to-dos? What do I want to get accomplished? And then there's this little tiny thing that will erode about how I take care of myself.
Well, I love this whole self-care thing on Mondays. That is, I like This Week in Recovered Life because I found throughout my recovery and life is that just setting this intention at the beginning of the week, it's like, hey, you know what? This is possible this week.
Absolutely.
I always, I go the other way though. I do. It's like, well, I didn't get enough. I have this huge goal, and then I surpass it and go, well, I could have maybe done more.
Oh yeah. My goal wasn't good enough. I know.
My goal wasn't good enough. Yeah, exactly.
Because I killed it.
Well, Tuesday, and I was in this partially. I was traveling back from a trip that I had on Tuesday, and shout out to everybody that I met in Kansas City.
Yeah,
amazing. I was unable to go to a meeting there, but I wanted to try to maybe hook up with some recovery people, but I just didn't have time because I had a family commitment. But shout out to everybody in Kansas City. I know if you're listening, a big recovery community there.
Yep.
But Tuesday you had the brain room, and
yes.
I this is my favorite, by the way. If only Recovered Life just ended up producing that Tuesday room, I would think it would be a success.
It is because neuroscience and all of these new thoughts, this thought work, we have so many amazing contributors and leaders, and we get to really discuss and having the insight about why our brain does what it does, and hearing other people having the same tricky brain, that brain that isn't made to make us happy, we start to realize, oh my gosh, I can take autonomy with myself, and I can take agency with my thoughts. And Tuesday's room, we started the Bernay Brown Atlas of the Heart. Have you picked that up yet?
No, I have to. Tell me about it.
Okay, so it came out on February 14th. I think, great day to launch a book about the heart. And the entire chapter, the introduction is about how we have to learn how to label, distinguish, and define all of the different emotions that we're having. And, I remember being in rooms that said feelings aren't facts, but they sure are when it comes to how you're going to make your next decision. Right? And how you feel. And she did this amazing thing, which I was able to go and share with this group and other people. I mean, if you're reading Atlas of the Heart, come to the Tuesday room, 9 a.m. Pacific, because we're going to pull every chapter apart. I asked the group if this is something they really want to do again, and they said yes. And we went through everything, anger, we went through anxiety. We defined anxiety. We went through fear. overwhelm and stressed. And she really
Love that.
she took research. And one of Bernay's wonderful gifts is the fact that she takes maybe some very, very heavy research and really boils it down to understand. And through that first chapter, this is just the first chapter, and I only gave the highlights, I started to recognize it's important to know, am I in anxiety or am I in fear? And how they both work. And so two things that she brought up that I want to share is that both anxiety and fear can be state or trait in yourself. And believe me, these anxiety, there isn't a general anxiety disorder that is not the same. But if you're having anxiety, it can be the state, the situation that you're in, right? It can be, whatever you have to overcome and it's giving you anxiety. Or it can be a trait, which is you have a predisposition or perpetual, anxiety that works in your life. The difference between that and generalized anxiety disorder is the length of time. Generalized anxiety disorder has to have lasted for 6 months, and that affects all kinds of things. The other statistic that came out was 33% of Americans have general anxiety disorder, and only half of those 33% get help for it. That blew my mind. I mean, how many of us?
I love this. And this is why we did the Recovered Life, is to have this deeper conversation about stuff. And I have to tell you, like, so much. And I don't even, what's interesting. I used to say thinking problem, but I don't know if everything about addiction is a thing. Because Thursday we had a room, which I want to talk about self-confidence with Unstuck. And some of the things that people with addiction issues have, people in recovery have, are very positive. Like, they're positive traits,
right?
Like, we're, typically as a group of people, if we're going to generalize,
good people,
very successful.
Yes.
Like, we
hardworking.
know how to go deep. Yeah. Hardworking. We know how to go deep. We know how to, like, we love a lot. We, we care a lot. Like, so there's a lot of really good things, but I will tell you, like, the whole neuro pattern thing. And I've learned not to call it a problem from that room.
Right.
This whole neural pattern thing and the thinking thing and what you're talking about here on this in the Tuesday room, I think is the key that unlocks the door to a way deeper experience in recovery.
Absolutely. And finding out we're not broken, finding out how our brain works and why, there is a highway of negative thoughts and a gravel road of positive thoughts. And it's the way we're set up, right? And finding that out, people can quit pathologizing themselves for having a brain that does that, because everybody's brain does that. And I really love the space that we've created there. And I hope people will join me this Tuesday, because we're going to talk about the next chapter. And guess what it's about? Resentment.
Oh, wow. That's going to be
anger.
Good.
Yes, it's going to be really good.
And
really
I like
good.
Bernay Brown. I mean, I think that is, I think that has value. So guys, you could definitely join that. A way to do that, I'm just going to put a little plug in here, is to go to recoveredlife.us, and right at the beginning, you can join our private community.
Yes.
Membership is 100% free, so you don't have to worry about that. You could just come in and you're going to get access to people like Kristina, myself, other Recovered Life contributors on everything. Like, I was looking at the notes on Recovered Life about your Wednesday clubhouse, which I want to talk about now, because this whole codependency thing, this setting boundaries, this whole thing is really, I talked about the thinking, about the key and the lock, but I think that this is the black belt. This whole ACOA, this whole codependency thing, I think this is the black belt of the recovery movement.
I would agree. It's deeper. There's triage about putting down the drink, but then there's all this work, because there was a reason why we drank. There were a lot of reasons why we drank, and alcohol has to go away when it's no longer our solution, but we still have the living problem. And with codependency recovery, it's all about relationships. And, I know, like Tony Robbins says, it's really easy to be spiritual in a cave. The problem is when you actually have to start interacting with others, right?
Exactly.
And so this kind of recovery, moving toward it, really, really helps us enjoy our relationships and for promoting self-love. And Wednesday's room was awesome. We had a coach. Her name is Alana Sanborn. And she came in and we had a really great discussion about how you start to love yourself and how you recognize, if you're in a relationship with a narcissist and how you move away from it. And people, that room is so beautiful. It's called Setting Healthy Boundaries. And I think we could talk about that every week for the rest of our lives, because so much of our recovery is around that type of living. And if you suspect you're a codependent, chances are you are. In fact, I will go out and say that I've met a lot of codependents who don't have alcohol problems, but I've never met an alcoholic who doesn't have a codependent behavioral pattern. And we were taught this. Codependents are made. And so in the ACOA stuff, we can go on and on about that. But that's a beautiful program about cleaning up your history and breaking those belief systems that you probably picked up as an early child. So much of some of our belief systems are pre-verbal. And I think that's an important discussion to have as well. So
this is so interesting, because I think never before in the history of recovery have we been able to have this ongoing deep discussion.
Right.
And not just about recovery, about just overall health and wellness.
True.
I think it's just amazing, and I'm going to come back to that. I always go to your room on Wednesdays.
I know.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
I'm always in the audience listening, and you've got such great guests on. Thursday, I had a room. I have this room about being unstuck. And this is great. And I love this room. And because of my little COVID situation, I had missed it.
Yes.
One way, like it's been crazy, but we had a lot of people on Clubhouse on Thursday.
Of course.
And it was great. And the topic was all about lacking self-confidence,
right,
or how to get self-confidence in especially early recovery. We focused just in general, but we also talked about early recovery, because a lot of people come in just beat. And they used to be the top of the world, feel that they could do anything, but now don't feel that they could even get up and brush their teeth.
Well, there's a reason why they call it liquid courage, right?
Yes,
I mean,
right?
There's a reason why we say that. And absolutely, confidence was a huge problem for me. In one area, my work area, I was pretty confident. Surprising. In all of the other areas, I had no idea who I was when I stopped drinking. I had no idea if I had value. I didn't even know how to access that. So I couldn't make the Thursday room, but I love the topic, and I'm glad that you
I
had
talked
it.
a lot about some of the coaching that I do about finding your world-class skill, how to find this world-class skill and to hold on to that, and also how to be right-sized in it, and about what is healthy self-confidence as opposed to non-healthy self-confidence, right? Because
So
there's
true.
both. You could be self-confident your way right into a relapse.
Totally.
And a lot of people do that. They try back on an unhealthy self-confidence,
Right.
which we call willpower a lot in 12-step groups, right?
Yes.
Also known as willpower.
Yeah.
And they say, well, I've been sober for 2 weeks, and hey, it's cool.
Feeling good.
And then they're out. You know what
Yep.
I mean? And a month later, they're figuring out what happened. But it was
Right.
interesting. On Recovered Life, I took a poll when we did it, and it's been up for less than 24 hours. And it says, do you lack self-confidence? It was interesting. 83% says sometimes, 0% said no.
Wow.
16% said yes. So it's like, it's interesting. And I maybe could have phrased that differently. Like,
Yes.
do you have ongoing thoughts of self-confidence?
Yeah.
But 83% of the people that are in there basically are saying like, hey, self-confidence is an issue for me. So it was good. We talked about tools, and people shared what worked for them. Wow. And I think that that's such the great part of it, and guys, if you're not members of the private community, you got to do that, because
Do it.
The great thing about it is your boss isn't going to be on there. Your aunt's not going to be on there. Your mom's not going to be, it's going to be a place just for you. We talk recovery, and I've met so many friends through that.
I love it. I love the community. And, we all had to kind of get forced into this, right? With COVID, we've talked about how it affected our support groups. And it is incredibly fun to meet people. I met somebody in real life who's from Maine because of the community. I met her Friday night. And that is one of the byproducts of all of that I never, ever anticipated. But it's a lot of fun.